Hello and welcome to the first lesson for the Very Useful Monster project using the BrickBit board. The BrickBit is designed specifically for Bricks for Kids franchisees, and this will show how to take the Very Useful Monster curriculum and use it using the BrickBit. A lot of the curriculum is pretty easy to port over, but there are a few little improvements actually that you can do using the BrickBit that we are going to explore in this process. And so this is the first of the videos, really the maps to the first of the Very Useful Monster project, which is an overview of the board plus a quick upload of the first program, which is a beating heart. Let's get started. We have here in front of me a BrickBit board. I have a microbit and the BrickBit board. The BrickBit board is designed to be compatible with Lego. It has this 2-axis Lego posts that are connected to it. The scaling of the board is also compatible with Lego in that it is a multiple of 8 millimeters throughout. That makes it fit very easily into any Lego build we do. The BrickBit board has the ability to power 2 servos. It has the ability to power 2 DC motors. It also has 8 addressable LEDs, often called NeoPixels. These are RGB, multicolor changing LEDs. By changing the red, green, or blue, we can achieve a whole host of different colors. It has an onboard battery, a built-in audio jack, and this on-off switch. So we're going to do our first program today by connecting the board, writing that first program, and giving our little monster a beating heart. So first thing we're going to do is plug the board into the BrickBit. All right, just snaps right on like that. Okay, now that it's connected, I'm going to be uploading a program using the USB cable. We use a USB micro cable is what plugs into the microbit off the top here. This cable is connected to whatever computer you're using. If you're using the Bluetooth implementation, you're going to be following a slightly different path. All my videos will be using the cable implementation, and I'm going to then jump over to the coding so we can take a look at that window. Okay, so all coding for the microbit is done using Microsoft MakeCode. The first project we're going to do is giving it a beating heart. That's kind of our hello world. You'll see down here that there already is a beating heart tutorial built in, but we're going to start from scratch so that you can see how it's done from scratch. We're going to do that. First off, just so you know, we recap this. The coding environment is Microsoft MakeCode. We get to it putting in the URL makecode.microbit.org, and that brings us to the page we are looking at right here. I then select on a new project because we are going to do a new project. When you select a new project, they ask for a name. So now I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it Hello World because this is our first project. And now we are in the Microsoft programming environment. Because I opened this from a clean window, it's asking if I want the tour of the editor. I'm going to ignore their tour and give you my tour. Here we have the coding editor that we use for the microbit. On the left-hand side, we have what's called an emulator window. The emulator window will show us what our code does on the microbit in as much as you can using this emulator window. It's a neat way of testing our code before we even upload it to the board. There are certain inputs to the microbit that the emulator can either not show or is a little hard to show. For example, if I am tipping it a specific way, the emulator window does show it tipping, but it doesn't always get it right. It's not the same as actually holding it. Also, if I have an input that there isn't an emulator for, and you'll see that soon with these LEDs, then the emulator doesn't always show us exactly what's out there. But like I said, it's a very handy thing. The middle are these tabs. The tabs are collections of blocks of code that are used on our microbit to program to it. There's the basic selection, and if I click down here, there are some advanced ones. And these are things we're going to explore in a little bit. But first, let's explore the first one, which is uploading that first program, which we're going to call Hello World, and is going to give our microbit a beating heart. So let's go through that. On the left side, on the right side here, then finally, is the code windows. In this case, I have selected blocks of code because if you look at the top here, it shows blocks. You'll also notice it says JavaScript. I can click over there, and now it's showing me what the same code looks like in JavaScript, or if I click on the pull down, it's JavaScript or Python. Today we're going to work only in blocks, so I'm going to click back to blocks, but you can see it's a very powerful environment because it lets us toggle back and forth. Upon launching, you'll see two types of blocks. One is on start and the other is forever. On start runs whatever is in there when you start the program. That's a good way to set all the variables when you get started. Forever is like a loop, repeating whatever's in there over and over again. We're going to see how that works differently in our code in a moment. Let's start with the onStart. What we want to do is the equivalent of one of the first computer programs people write, which is Hello World. Back in the old days, Hello World was a way where you would take your code and have the screen show the word Hello World. And there were different ways of doing that in different programming languages. One quick way of learning a programming language or getting started was figuring out how to make it say Hello World. In our case, since it's a monster, we're going to give it a heart and even a beating heart. To do that, we're going to go into the basic blocks. If I click on these blocks, you'll see that there's a number of blocks up and down where you can screen up and down. You'll also see our forever and on start blocks. There's a pause, but the big one we want to see is these LEDs. The LEDs work with the microbit, and the microbit has a 5x5 array of LEDs. And this is how we can change what they show. So let me walk over here, grab this, and put on start these to show LEDs. Since I want to give it a heart, a beating heart, I'm going to first draw a heart on it by clicking and filling in the blocks. I've drawn a heart by clicking on those, and now you'll see that my emulator window is showing a heart. That's great. And that is basically, now because it's a simple program, the emulator window can show me what is happening on the board. Well, we said we wanted a beating heart. So how do I do a beating heart? Well, we're going to do a beating heart the same way people animate in stop motion. We're going to show one picture, wait a fraction of a second, show another picture, and change the picture. And by kind of like a flip book or an animation, we're going to make it look like it's moving. To do that, we're going to go back to these basic blocks, go to this pause block. We're going to show one picture. We're going to pause maybe half a second, so 500 milliseconds. Then I'm going to make the heart change in size. Maybe now the heart gets a little smaller. And that is how it's going to do. And then maybe I'm going to have it pause again. And maybe it even gets smaller again. So I'm going to put another pause in there. Another half second. And another image. And now this one is even smaller. If I look at my emulator window, you'll see it did it, but it just did that once. It followed that, but like I said, because it just got to that size and then stopped. Let's go back to the code to figure out what's going on here. I had that in the on start block. So what if instead I drop that into the forever block? So now, like I said, the forever block is going to keep repeating it over and over again. And you can see now that it's getting smaller and then boom, gets bigger. And one thing that might want to do is I didn't put a little pause here, but I do like it getting bigger fast. So maybe I'll put another pause at the end, but this one will be a super fast pause, maybe just 100 milliseconds, and see what happens. I look at my little emulator window and the heart is beating. That's cool. I got the heart to beat on the computer, but I haven't gotten the heart to beat on my microbit yet. How do I do that? Well, in this case, because I am using the cable method, I'm going to plug the cable into the top of the microbit. I am going to click on this download button right here in the bottom left. When I click on the download button, it'll automatically download. If it's a new microbit that you've never used before, it may ask you to pair that microbit, and it'll lead you through a series of steps to pair the microbit. No problem, you can just do it that way and it'll work fine. We've now paired the microbit and downloaded the program, and let's see what's going on my board. Close this up. Hold on. Something strange is happening here with the LEDs. Okay. And I'm going to change my monitor. Ugh, that's not working. Hold on. Okay. So here now you can see that my microbit has a beating heart. The heart is getting smaller and larger. We've uploaded our first program to the microbit. Very straightforward. And this is our hello world, giving our microbit a beating heart. Next, we're going to explore what else we can do by giving our microbit a face and exploring all the other inputs and outputs that we have to work with. But we're also going to do a quick little build that will make our microbit and our monster stand, and it's going to make us think about changing an orientation and how we want to design our monster. That'll be in the next video. Look forward to seeing you there.